Hi, Lucy. What's up? Want to say hi? Hmm? I'll try on the glasses. Good dog. Good doggy. Yeah. She just wanted to say hello before I started. I was just listening to the birds. It's February 27th, I think, 2025. And I was just thinking about how we're just a month away from the solstice. Or, sorry, the equinox, spring equinox, which is the first day of spring. And that excites me very much. It's been colder than Dickens out here, and it just started warming up the last couple days. It's been like 65. That's like summer in the Portland area. So the Willamette Valley, that's what I'll call it. I would say Portland area, but if I say Vancouver, where I live, people are like, "Oh, you live in BC?" I'm like, no, Vancouver, Washington. It's across the bridge from Portland. But let's just say the Willamette Valley. And it's between Mount Hood and the Coast Range, and the Cascades and the Coast Range. And we have a unique coast range here because all of our coasts, and most of them in at least Oregon, a lot of Oregon and Washington are like backed up by mountains right after the coast. So the mountain range is like right down to the coast, and it's a unique geography, and it's beautiful down there. And growing up in the Portland area my whole life, I've experienced all the different climates. We've got the coast out west, we've got the desert out east, within an hour both ways, or an hour and a half. Down in southeast Oregon, we used to go to Trout Creek. My dad would take us down to the mountains, and we'd go camping in the middle of the desert there. And then you go up north, and you've got basically rainforest, a temperate rainforest up there in the Olympic Peninsula, thick stuff. And then you can go to the coast range, to the mountains there, and there's like several different high peak mountains, Sisters and Bachelor and Mount Hood and Mount Adams, Mount St. Helens, and then the one that Trump said he was going to rename back to, I don't remember which one it was. Anyway, was it Mount Washington? No. We've got Rainier, of course, the biggest one in the range. That one is actually, we call it Tahoma, because that's the traditional native name, which I'm sure that, has always been a dispute, like anything like that. It's kind of silly. But anyway, we've got a lot of climates and a lot of areas to visit out here, and it's very unique, and this is why I want to call it my home. This is why I think the Pacific Northwest is the best place to live. Now, I'm talking out my ass. I haven't been to other places, okay? I've never left the country. I know that there are more comfortable places to live and better climates and whatnot. What I mean is that, as for now and what I know, if I were to move away, I'd be more likely, if I were to move overseas, I've thought about this, I'd be more likely to want to live in a place like Japan than I would, say, down in the Philippines or somewhere down in the South Pacific, because I don't want to deal with all the mosquitoes and too much heat and sweat. I don't care for that. I don't want to live in Florida. I have no interest, or southern Texas or something. Right here, it's just about perfect in the Portland area. It stays in the say 50s on average in the winter. Sometimes gets cold, but it rarely gets below zero, only for a week or so sometimes. Snows a couple times a year, a few inches, not much, sometimes not at all. Once in a while we get like a foot or so, but rarely more than that. And the summers are moderate, like 70 to 80, and then it gets up to like 90, 100. It was 115 a couple of years ago. That was like the record, but with the climate changing, which it always is, right? We don't know where it's going to be next with the different wind patterns or what kind of climate it might be in 20 years. But for right now, it's a beautiful place to live, and you have so much access to different areas and climates around here that no matter what happens, what changes, weather-wise, if you don't like it, the rain, you can move a little east and it's drier. And I visited, down places like Tennessee and Georgia, which I just passed through Georgia a bit, We were going to see Bonnaroo out there in Tennessee, and it's a beautiful area, but it just all looks the same to me. There's something about out east. There's a lot of more deciduous trees. We have a lot more conifers out here, but it just like the terrain just all looks the same. There's no large mountains, and that's what I love about out here. They're just beautiful when you're driving to work, and you can just look at that giant mountain down the Columbia Gorge. So we also have the biggest river, the Columbia, east of the Mississippi, and that's a big ass river, and it's deep. And there's big sturgeon in there, and salmon, and hey man, this place is great, come on up. Wait, don't come. Back in the 90s, there was a big thing. We had a lot of, I remember bumper stickers that, what did it say, something like, Californians go home, something to that effect. Not that blatant, but something to the effect, because Californians had been moving up in droves as prices raised. And that was the first sign. I mean, that was like 40 years ago, 30 years ago. And California, being that beacon of liberalism, they screwed themselves by allowing all of the, prices to go up so high, and with too many rules and regulations and laws, but at the same time being on the forefront of trying to protect the people, right? And getting overzealous. Anytime you buy a product, probably anywhere in the U.S., as a little sticker, known to the state of California to cause cancer and reproductive harm, because it's got some small amount of something in it that somebody deemed to be dangerous. And so every manufacturer has to put a little sticker on there for California. So it's one of those things, maybe it's good, maybe it's overbearing, but it's costing their state. And a lot of them moved up here. And so we have like Little California here, which is Beaverton is the name of the city, but I've always called it Little Cali because it's just so packed. And all the houses like look the same, and they're just those standard like 90s to 2000s houses, just boxes just right next to each other, no character to the land, just a leveled, bulldozed development with hardly any trees. It's like, dude, just leave a few fir trees. I mean, nope, it's a liability, it might fall on the house. I understand not having some trees around the perimeter, especially in fire zones, but this isn't the case here. These are just houses where you just never want to look out the window. You'll just see other neighbors. So I just got done working at this house for this week, and it was out east here, maybe like 20 minutes east down the Columbia River on Highway 14, and then there's a town called Washougal. It's a smaller town, however many thousand, 10,000 maybe people, I don't know. But on the hillside, where there used to be trees, and there's a large hill, and at the top they'd cleared out basically every single tree on the hillside, and then they started putting in houses. Not just little houses. These are like $1 million homes, over $1 million, I don't know how much, but large houses built on the hillside. They all have somewhat kind of that same architecture. Each one's on the hill, so they're all different with, the same colors of fencing and everything. Obviously the same developers, but I worked on the back of this guy's house. He's got this big deck that overlooks Portland and the gorge, and it's beautiful, beautiful view. Except right below that is all the other houses going down the hill, which you can see every one of their windows. I could stand on his back porch and see probably 100 windows looking back at me from all around the different neighbors. And I'm like, dude, it's like being in a fucking fishbowl. I mean, I just couldn't handle it, living in a place like that. It's the cookie cutter style multiplied to make it multi-million-dollar homes, right? And he wanted me to modify it a bit to replace a small access door to the crawl space with a full-size door, and then put new trim on it, cut the siding back, and make everything match and paint it. And then put in like 3 platforms under there so he could just put storage in. I was just thinking about, he's a guy with disposable income, and I was thinking, man, if I had enough money to buy a place like this, I wouldn't buy it here? I don't know. I guess everybody's unique. I mean, maybe I would say you could plant some bushes or trees, but likely you can't because of the HOA. And I'll tell you this, I would never, ever live with an HOA. And I should do an entire video about this because it's fascinating to me. I heard a story about an HOA that tried to force all the neighbors to join, but all those people had lived there long before the new houses were there, so they refused to join. In the end, it turned out that they had gone door to door to try to convince people to join the HOA, and if they said no, they would send them fines anyway, and people would just pay them. Fines for fence or grass or whatever. When people investigated and took the people that refused to pay and then took the people to court, it turned out the HOA didn't even live in the neighborhood. It was from like a different state, and they would just look for communities where new houses were being built, and they would go in and claim that they were an HOA and start an HOA, but you didn't have to live in the community to do it. So they would do it to these communities and then send out all these fines and just see who paid. And I thought, how many people are getting duped and screwed in so many different ways out there? But that's why my wife and I are wanting to get out of here. We're in the suburbs here. We've got a little yard, but we want at least a couple acres, maybe a little stream or creek, a river nearby, all trees, and no neighbors. I've always said my goal is to be able to walk out on my back porch naked if I chose to and not worry about being seen. If somebody's out in the field, fine, but that's their fault. They'll be scarred forever. You know, and maybe that's just that old American dream, you know. For a lot of people, it's just the small house in the suburbs with a white picket fence. I want out of that. I want a farmhouse with fields, rolling fields. And I guess it's cheaper, actually, to buy a house with, you know, a couple of acres further away, because people want to live close to the city, and that's understandable. Because it's hard if you work here. And I'm still working on how I'm going to do that when we move. So I guess this video is just talking about places to live, and I guess why I love the Northwest. And maybe it's just because we are going to be selling our house and moving, and I don't want to move too far. We thought about moving to Kentucky for a while. We'd looked into moving to, you know, Idaho, Montana. A lot of these places are expensive there, but down in Kentucky it's cheap. You can get, for the, if we sold our house, our little 1,000 square foot ranch house, we could get probably like a farmhouse, probably like a 3,000 square foot farmhouse with like a couple acres down there for the same price. Yeah, it's crazy. But then you've got to look at the wages and the work. A lot of states minimum wage is like $7.50, $7.25. Out here it's $15.50, I think. Not that I don't make minimum wage, but if I did, if I had to start a job, or if I couldn't find a job doing what I do, or if I got hurt as a carpenter, that's my only concern about moving is being able to make sure we can pay our bills if something happened. But isn't that always the worry? We just live where we live, and so I hope you live where you like to live. And be careful, Lucy. You're bumping my camera. Lucy and I say bye. Say bye, Lucy. Hey, come here. Say bye. Good dog. Scratching that dry skin. Here's my humble little yard. And my pond I need to fix. Hey, squirrel. Whoa, nice leap, bro. That was good. That was a good leap. Got this little cedar tree. It was a dwarf. It was a baby cedar tree that I planted. I had it in a pot for a while, but it replaced the one that used to be there, the blue spruce, and it fell over on that wire. Yep. I think it's almost time for this. The Ordeal X. And I thought it would be funny to put this on here. Some random dude. Carpo 719. 2020 is a great year for an apocalypse. Oh, and indeed it was, wasn't it? I actually had a lot of good times during COVID because my wife had time off and I had time off, and we took full advantage. Did all kinds of new projects and went on trips. But, you know, all good things must come to an end. Eventually I caught it. I died 3 times, but I keep coming back. I'm forever, man. Anyway, I'll talk to y'all soon. And if I do finally get my house and we get moved, it's going to be fun because it's going to be like a homesteading kind of thing where we're going to want to, I mean, we're going to be live near the city still, but be able to work our land. And I want to document the whole process from the remodel of my house and the gutting all the way to getting the new house. Maybe I could do it on like a second channel, maybe even just for my own posterity, just being able to watch it and have it stored somewhere that I won't lose it. But anyway, yeah, I do have another channel, Carpo's Thoughts. I could put it on there, or Carpo Craft, which is my woodworking channel. Maybe I'll put it there. Anyway, have a wonderful day, everybody, and I'll talk to you next time.